The sun never sets on the Russian Empire, and nor does it set on the citadels of their battleships. Good afternoon, you wee bastards, and welcome back to World of Warships with Koala, and today we're taking a look at the relatively recently added Russian battleships, with the Tier 6 Borodino class, the Izmail, being sailed out for us by Ferrari. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's from the Dragon Prince book series from the 90s. This is the first time I've ever featured someone else's replay on the channel, and definitely won't be the last. Lads, send them in. Now, before we get started, just look at the team composition of this match. Not only are we free from the tyranny of aircraft carriers, but the match is 60% battleship. So the recent World of Warships patch flooded the game with a whole new line of Russian bias. That's right, the Russian tech tree now has its own line of battleships at every tier above tier 3, with the Kanaya Suvorov. I can remember back before I took my long hiatus from World of Warships, we used to joke about Russian battleships being added into the game. What Russian battleships? The Imperial Navy in World War I and the Soviet Navy in World War II didn't really use a lot of large ships. Their navy in World War II was mainly confined to destroyers and light cruisers, with the Project 23 cruisers, the Kirov class, having some of the biggest firepower actually put to sea. The thing was, the Russians weren't quite capable of making armour for these types of ships, and they needed the steel in order to manufacture the 10 million bloody T-34s they wanted to build. There was also the issue of Joseph Stalin wanting a large navy, but executing the majority of his experienced naval officers in the purges of the 1930s. There were some further designs and battleships in construction, like the Sovietsky Soyuz seen at Tier 9 in World of Warships, a ship that was never actually constructed, but of the few true battleships that were actually used by Russia, the most well-known are the two premiums, the Imperator Nikolai I and the October Revolution, which I'm not going to try to pronounce its Russian name. Oh, alright, I'll give it a try. Oktyabrskaya Revolutsiya. Have at me, Russian viewers. Well, yeah, that is a lot of targets that just popped into view. But Ferrari's not actually in direct line of sight to any of them because of these islands, or at least he wasn't, so he was actually able to move in quite close before being detected. It's actually that Peter the Great over there that's now spotting him. He's lining up for a shot on this German Tier 7 destroyer that's moving out at a fair old lick. Shots out. Ooh, that hurt. Even with only one successful penetration. Of course, firing 14-inch armor piercing at a destroyer isn't going to yield great results. Now, I'm not sure whether the destroyer captain just shit his pants when those rounds hit him and launched his torpedoes, or whether that was the plan all along, but either way, Ferrari can easily see that they'll be coming, and there they are. Don't worry, he'll be back for more later. So, with the two Russian premium battleships already in the game, the prospect of a full tech tree line of battleships was always iffy. There would obviously have to be some paper or even made up vehicles, which, as far as I can tell, the Tier 5 Russian battleship, the Peter the Great, is, along with the Tier 8 battleship, the Vladivostok. This is the ship with a bow the size of Belarus. The reason for that is that she was actually meant to have a third frontal turret there, like the British Nelson. She was based on an early rejected design for the Soyuz, and never left the drawing board. Interestingly enough, if she'd been added with her third bow turret, Vladivostok would have had a total of 12 16-inch guns. That's Tier 10 battleship firepower. The Montana has 12 16-inch guns. Yeah, I can see why Wargaming didn't go that way. The Vladivostok in all other regards would be a terrible Tier 10 battleship. So what else was an option? Perhaps the British Revenge-class battleship HMS Royal Sovereign, which was loaned to the Soviets in 1944 as the Arkhangelsk, along with some liberties taken with ships that were actually in existence, like the Kanaya Suvorov. By the way, I should apologise for the god-awful Russian pronunciations going on in this video. Russian is tough enough for an English speaker, but when you have a thick Highlander accent... Anyway, the Suvorov was a pre-dreadnought battleship with only two main turrets and several 6-inch guns, so Wargaming's adjusted history a tad in order to fit her into Tier 3. The Sinop is another ship like this. It was a rejected design, which would, in all honesty, have been a bit shit in real life, as it didn't have super firing turrets. The second frontal turret sat at the same height as the foremost turret, and therefore couldn't fire over it, meaning that the ship would have to go almost full broadside in order to get more than one turret on target. Given the poor accuracy of battleship guns, you'll want to be getting more than one turret on target. And we all know what happens when you go broadside in World of Warships, don't we? Then there's the Tier 10 battleship, the Kremlin, the ship that was designed to improve upon the Soyuz, and in the process the designers thought, hey, that Yamato had some pretty big guns. Why don't we put some 18-inch guns on our battleship too? That's when Joseph Stalin arrived to tell them they'd obviously had too much vodka, but she's seen in-game with the 18-inch guns. In fact, the only ship in the entire Russian battleship tech tree that was actually built is the Tier 4 battleship, the Gangut, and if you think it looks a lot like the October Revolution, well, this is the October Revolution. This is the Imperial Russian dreadnought that was rebuilt in the 1920s and 30s and became the October Revolution for the Soviet Navy that we see as a Tier 5 premium. Our Tier 4 Gangut basically represents a ship that's partway through that overhaul. So it's kind of the same ship. It's a bit like the ship of Theseus. Is it the same ship or is it a new ship? At what point does it become a new ship? I'll let you guys argue that one around. Last but certainly not least, we have the Project 23 battleship, the Sovietsky Soyuz, which sits at Tier 9. This ship was actually laid down, at least the hull was, in the late 1930s, and it was possible that if Soviet steel production had been a wee bit better, that the Soyuz could have rivaled the Iowa and Yamato, although she only had firepower comparable to the earlier American North Carolina class. Unfortunately, the Soviet shipbuilding industry was plagued with problems, steel production was infamously poor, and when Operation Barbarossa saw German forces advancing into Russia, the decision was made to cancel the 4 ships already laid down and instead use the steel to build tanks to defend the homeland. Now, the Russian battleships at tiers 3, 4 and 5 are... they're good in experienced hands, but they're not idiot-proof. Massive exposed citadels, seriously, these things are enormous, and embarrassing anti-aircraft firepower, just abysmal. They do have pretty good armour, so if you know how to angle correctly and aren't too callous, you can be quite tanky. You have absolutely no deck armour, however. That's something that was heavily nerfed since the development server, so now high explosive shells from cruisers hitting you from above can deal big damage, and broadsiding anything with a half-decent armour piercing, including early heavy cruisers, is a very, very bad idea. Then you're greeted with this ship, the Izmail, the Tier 6 Russian battleship, which in actual fact isn't a battleship at all, she's a battlecruiser. Oof. That was close. Friendly Kiro just gave us the old 7-inch buzz cut. Hold on a second. Is that HMS Hood firing high explosive at a broadsiding battlecruiser? Anyway, the Izmail does have battleship caliber 14-inch guns, and she does have 12 of the bastards in 4 triple mount turrets like a battleship. The only real issue with these turrets is that 3 out of 4 of them can swing forwards, so if you want to engage a target off the port bow and then switch to engage someone off the starboard bow, 3/4 of your guns have to go the long way around, and they turn like battleship turrets. The Izmail reminds me a wee bit of the HMS Hood, in that while it was a battlecruiser in real life, in World of Warships it functions as a battleship in all but name. Short side at this Leon. Oh, ow. So, with the inability to traverse most of your turrets across the bow of your ship, you have to ensure that you're keeping targets to one side as much as possible in these Russian battlecruisers slash battleships in World of Warships. As such, in this match, and particularly the Izmail as well, Polfarani has gone for the flank. Oh hello. Hold on. I think this Araba has a death wish. Just when you thought you'd seen it all, there are 4 battleships over there, and this Japanese heavy cruiser thinks it's a good idea to go broadside to them at as little as 4.5 kilometers. I think he might be trying to get his torpedoes off. Not the best use of your ship, and you're also now in Polfaradi's way of finishing off that Leon. He's actually now shielding Polfaradi with his ship. Well, his torpedoes are out, but I don't think we should give him the kill for that display. Move out the way, sunshine. Here's how it's done. Load the armor-piercing potatoes, Boris. Now that is how you don't support your team. Surprisingly enough, though, would you believe the Arba's going to make it out of that one alive? Broadside onto 4 battleships at between 5 and 15 kilometers away in a cruiser. And he's somehow managed to cling on to some of his hit points. Yeah, I can't work it out either. Now back to what I was saying earlier. Given that the vast majority of Polferati's targets are going to be battleships, one less now, keeping the turrets pointed in the right direction is not going to be an issue. And there's the HMS Hood, still firing high explosive at broadside targets. I mean, I'm a potato at World of Warships, and if even I'm telling you you're doing something wrong. Oh, what a convenient smokescreen that Arba left for us. Oh my god. That was only 3 penetrating shots, more than half of that salvo over-penetrated. Wow. Now the Izmail is the first Russian battleship/cruiser that actually has decent armour around the citadel. It has a massive casemate that protects the part of the citadel above the water. Her air defence is also slightly more respectable than her predecessors, although you can't polish a turd. And the reload rate is meh, it's average. What is fantastic with this ship, although somewhat inconsistent, is the power of those armour-piercing shells. This is a ship that eats citadels for breakfast. Although Polferati did just fire another salvo at the New York, this time 4 penetrating hits rather than 3, and 25% less damage than the previous hit. These guns are all over the place sometimes. So you may notice that while the enemy team have only sunk 2 ships so far, they haven't been doing nothing. They've actually managed to secure all 4 capture points, and they hold a points lead, even having lost 3 of their own ships. Make that 4. Finally, the elusive citadel. Honestly, did you think I was making it up? So now Polferati's team do have a slight points advantage, and they are in the process of flipping 2 caps. They don't have a comfortable points advantage, but you only need to be 1 ahead to win. Polferati himself has actually had a fairly relaxing time this game. He's been showing quite a bit of broadside to the cluster of battleships over to the east, yet none of them have been shooting at him. In fact, the ship that's caused him the most stress this game was probably that Alba. Another 10,000 damage done to the Mutsu with that salvo, but his team have got to start focusing on caps. They just cannot hold the points lead without controlling any of the map, even if they keep sinking ships. And if you notice, they're not really working together either. We've kind of had 2 separate groups show up. Somehow Polferati's team over by Alpha completely leapfrogged the capture point, and they've all moved past it over there, even though they don't control it. Perhaps, and I'm just spitballing here, but there might be a certain German destroyer over there. Decent salvo in the Mutsu there, but no citadels. Wasn't enough to finish him off. Unfortunately, the 2 groups are also slightly too far away from each other to really make use of crossfire into the remaining enemies. They're not outflanking the enemy yet, they're just not together. The enemy ships are also in all the wrong locations, at least for our team. Polferati has to take out these battleships off to the east before he and the Congo off to his right can move into the map to support his team. Oh, and again, good hit, not quite enough. This Mutsu is lucky to still be alive right now. And there we go, the Congo finishes him off. That Japanese cruiser over there also just took an enormous citadel hit from a Sinop on Polferati's team. And there are now only 2 battleships preventing Polferati and the Congo from moving into the map to support their team. This hood looks quite juicy right now. Do we take it? Yeah, I think so. Load the armor-piercing potatoes, Boris. Oh my god. And there's the high caliber award, 41,000 damage. Unfortunately, that enormous hit was actually a bit of a double-edged sword, because now it doesn't look as if we're going to get this kill. Please nobody steal it, I think we've earned this. Come on, almost reloaded. Nope, not in time. Polferati is robbed of the kill by a Podvoisky. Honestly, I can't feel bad for the Podvoisky, however. This was really a bad situation for a destroyer. Nothing but battleships broadsiding each other at the corners of the map. Nothing he could really do. It'd be nice if he could go and flip some capture points, but I guess a kill is... Hang on. Did you see that? You know how I said these armor-piercing rounds are pretty good? Let's replay that last shot, shall we? Lads and ladies, 3 14-inch penetrations for 0 damage. I mean, it was against another Russian battleship. Does that make it Russian bias, or does that make it not Russian bias? Anyway, the Peter the Great managed to take out the Congo. Polferati's team is now down to a measly 6 battleships, most of them on high health too, and the one destroyer, the Podvoisky, who's about to lose a duel with that Z-39. On the other hand, the enemy have the Peter the Great, the Z-39, and one Japanese heavy cruiser. Z-39 gave him a good shot, entirely over penetrations, still did almost 7,500 damage. That earned him the Confederate Award. Now over 155,000 damage. Polferati seems to think there's some Russian bias going on. Now, the Z-39's gone undetected. Obviously, he's going to be launching torpedoes. So, Polferati's turning in. The ship does have a rather large turning circle. But that means he's not going to be able to get guns on the enemy Peter the Great. At least not until he's either able to swing back around, or his guns traverse all the way over there in 60 seconds time. Now there's one load of torpedoes right on cue, but the Z-39 does have 2 torpedo launches. He only sent 4 torpedoes our way just then. That means he could have 4 more waiting in the wings. Still, time is of the essence. There's a Furitaka over there nicely covered by that island, but let's see if we can sneak a shell over the top, shall we? Not sure this is going to work. It's going to be close. Can it make it? Oh, it did! And almost immediately, Polferati's got the 9 remaining 14-inch guns firing at the Peter the Great. Had to turn broadside to do it, but we know the Z-39 isn't threatening us over here anymore. He was actually just spotted a second ago, and the friendly Peter the Great has spotted his torpedoes in the water. But this all happened long after Polferati decided to swing his stern around to fire at the enemy Peter the Great. So how do we know that the Z-39 had gone? Well, put it this way. The enemy team is nearly blind at this point. Besides Polferati's Izmail, the King George V to his left, and the friendly Peter the Great some 13 kilometers in front of him, neither the Z-39 nor the enemy Peter the Great know where the rest of Polferati's team is. That Furitaka was the only one spotting them. The Leon and Sinop are both too far away to fire, so they've gone undetected, and the last battleship on the team is so far away, he might as well be on the moon. The enemy Peter the Great is attempting to use that island as cover, minimise the amount of armour-piercing damage he can take, and focus fire on Polferati, trying to maintain the points lead and maintain control of Delta Cap. So the Z-39 would either have to turn around and head back to the west in order to launch torpedoes at Polferati a second time. Remember, he was heading east when he launched the first 4, which he can't do because he'd be spotted by the King George V. So the Z-39, if he wanted to torpedo Polferati's Izmail again, would have to go the long way around and go in a complete circle, which takes him out of the battle for long enough that Polferati can easily swing around, fire at the Peter the Great, and then head back into Delta Cap in order to get the bow of his ship facing directly towards any potential oncoming torpedoes. Better for the Z-39 to just make his way through the map and attempt to torpedo our team's Peter the Great. He's not going to be able to move into Bravo in time to flip it, and he can't stick around here. Enemy Peter the Great goes down to the friendly Peter the Great, so once again, is that proof of Russian bias, or is that not Russian bias? Either way, that's just robbed Polferati of the Kraken. But this game is now over. The Z-39 cannot move out of that smoke cloud. Now he's got battleships closing in from 3 sides, and he can't even kill any of them with torpedoes. He does manage to get one on the bow of Polferati's Izmail, causes flooding, but that's definitely not going to be enough to save him. And he did say good game in chat, knowing how this was going to end for him. Because you can't fight that much Russian bias and expect to come out of it alive. And as they say, it's better to be dead than red. Ladies and gentlemen, Polfaradi and the Izmail, brand new tier 6 Russian bias battlecruiser, 4 kills, 3 citadels, and almost 177,000 damage. I hope you lads have enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, join the 360 squad, because I am going to be doing plenty more World of Warships videos. So if this is your first time seeing the channel, I thank you for stopping by, and once again hope you enjoyed and that you stick around. Please let me know your thoughts on this video in the comment section below and on the new Russian battleship tech tree in general. What are your impressions? What are you liking so far? What are you disliking? And if you happen to have any high tier Russian battleship replays, definitely go ahead and send those in. Thank you to Polfaradi, first replay to ever feature on the channel. I really enjoyed this match. Anyway, be sure to come follow me on Twitter and Twitch, join the Discord, and check out Patreon if you wish to support the channel further. Thank you lads all so much for watching, have a lovely good day. Always remember, keep your bagpipes to hand, keep your kilt on, and I shall see you next video.
Enemy battleship foundered. Good game, everyone.
I say a wee thank you to these lads for supporting me on Patreon. Captain Fubar, DA261, Gisli Gadarson, and Dark Recon. You lads are bra. If you wish to join them, come check out the link in the description below.